kind of measured up the ends and the neck stop length with the gluing surface for the board up to the nut, and then the saddle space and then the rest of the scroll. So those I think it's the neck stop would be sort of your major markings on the scroll. So I embed the neck into the joint about 5 to 6 mils. In this case it was just under 6, but about 6 mils for the joint, and then 130 up to the nut is where your board is going to get glued, and then the rest of the scroll and 6 millimeters for the nut is the measurements. And after that I did, normally you would have used a coping saw to cut the scroll out of the block. When I'm in a private life, I just use bandsaw. I don't think there's any, as long as you have a great skill, I don't think there's nothing wrong with using power tools. In the end, it's not the machine which does the work, but the guy who guides it. So something to remember in machines is when they make a little mistake, it amplifies by how fast it spins. So I prefer to do most of the big, like rough cuts, if I can use like bandsaws or maybe sanders, and then all of the final cutting and final finishing by hand. It's just basically saving time. We all have chopped enough net blocks with the coping saws and other rasps, and I think we have earned a place to at least use limited number of machines, but it also comes with a great study and exercise. So tool is a tool. It's who wields it and how you wield it. That's the most important. What I did, I cut the chamfer with the knife all around the lines of the scroll, because it always have at least bit of overhang. It's good to leave a little bit, and what that does, it just makes me see the outline of the scroll a little easier when it's chamfered with 45 all the way through your scribe line. And I normally, with the scribe line, I mark it also with pencil, just because my eyesight is not as hawkish as it used to be. So anything that helps, in the end, I don't see any trouble with that. And then after all of the most of the outlines were done. I do like to get it the most of the perfect I can get, because that basically is your final line. But there's always the when you finishing up the scrolls, your own interpretation comes alight in the final finishes. So when you do it step by step, it's easy to keep it simple, and when you get one almost perfect, you just move on. It speeds up the process much quicker. So what I did is full outline of the scroll, and it was nice and square. And next step would have been using fishtail. What that means is the template, it goes and wraps around the scroll. That bit brings my squaring process. I did drill the peg holes. Reason being, it's just easier to square them up. Some makers leave them all the way to the last minute, even after the varnishing. But for me, the rips and tears and getting them all nice and centered, it is easier on the square block. So for that, it was only reason for that. Little downside of it is if you did drill all of those holes in there and you did your outline and something didn't go just right, your holes might be a little off from the scroll. But again, if you take a little bit more time and leave a little bit more room, it's not the issue anymore. Shape, so you can see me calculating the peg box shape and the scroll shape with the fishtail, and then I just used a little bit of Japanese saw to cut little slots down with the scribed lines to get the shape carved out from the square body. So that is always one of my favorite parts of the scroll, is just when you start cutting it out from the square block. It's just fun for me, bit of fun. So that's where it starts to hit you. You're able to finally finish the violin soon. Just a little bit more patience. So did that, and then got it kind of step by step, try to square it up while I went in around. And after I got it mostly done, I kind of marked the peg box and I embed a carbon graphite bar into the neck, and reason being, it just strengthens up the whole neck. And if you do a little slimmer necks, it gives more strength, and it doesn't move as much in winter, summer, or if you go abroad to a different humidity and different temperatures. It just keeps the whole violin a bit more stable. The fingerboard ready, so I make it all nice and standard of just square it up to almost perfect board dimensions, and glue that to the neck so I can shape the whole neck part match the board itself. Slightly different how I learned it originally, where in the school we learn to do it to existing violin. It is harder and the skill level is a little higher for that, but it is, for me, it is a better way to learn. Building is more into a restoration point of view. Is if you already have skill to blend something, already existing shapes, then when you do actual build and put the board in and do the neck shapes, it is just so much easier. So it's almost like doing sports, you practice harder, and then when you actually have to perform, it is easier to do the actual process than what you train for. So that basically determined most of my the neck thicknesses and the shape itself by just having a right size board on the top, and then I just blend everything together. I started adapting into my neck projection. Was a little gizmo with kind of clamps to the end block. You get little easier idea where it's going, and then I finish up the final fitting with the bridge with this clamp with the rubber band between F holes, and kind of measure it and taped it all out in there, and that gave me a just comfort level. Square doing the slightly angle of the neck root again and cutting all the sides so the neck, the fingerboard and the neck would be blending in nice sort of wedged shape, and still a little bit rough, but I worked it all around, and then until I got the scroll about 80% finished, I started doing the neck mortise on the violin. So first would have been just calculating everything got right, and I almost did a little boo-boo on the cutting a scroll, and that's also good to remember always. Measure twice, cut once. On my case, measure twice and measure it once more, just in case. Next would have been just blending and cutting some of the excess of the neck after the whole neck was glued in. And the button shape, normally I think we use little coin, was the traditional way, but I measure my button, and then I nowadays use a little bit of circle patterns and use that to do the shape, rather than using dividers, which is more traditionally used. I just kind of tired of removing the hole in the middle, so that's just my way to do. Again, after that I again worked on off of the edge works and the scroll, and then one major one was thinning down the neck and getting it all rounded up to the final shape. And normally when I considered something almost finished in white, it's almost fully finished, about 90%, and that's where everything comes together. You get the full, almost finished project, and then you just go back. All of the things you kind of had doubt and just reworked, and that way all the worrying and all the fine details are left to the last minute. And I think that's, for me, has been the best way to finish the violin, because it gives me, you get different moods between the build, and never have a perfect day. Well, sometimes yes, but so that way you eliminate if you had a little worse day, sometimes you have a better days. You can calculate if you really have a great day and you have a issue you couldn't fix or weren't happy, you can always work on that. The last minute details I did do have a little bit more to finish, and also because I did leave all of the fine details to the end, I can now blend both scroll and the box nicely together. Sometimes you have violins where you have really nice body or sometimes really nice scroll, and and if you finish one before other, it's harder to make them work together. So the beauty is if you kind of get just about 20% of leeway when neck goes in, it's easier to make them both more compatible. So, and the next step would have been just before varnishing is just going all the nicks and tears and little bits. I scrape it once more and do some horsetail finish, and then doing the stain and the ground. So during years I've done quite a bit, all the way to potassium nitrites and UV tanning to ammonia fuming and tea stains and God knows what. But what I found is the simple solutions are sometimes the best. Aniline stains, same thing what I used for tanning the insides. I do airbrush as a powder coat, just to get a little bit of the edge of the white wood, and then what I do is I use Tripoli and shellac. Firstly I go shellac with the rack thinly and just wipe it all around the body itself to after the tanning, of course, and seal up the wood that way, and use Tripoli powder and just kind of use right after I rack the shellac on, I go with the Tripoli powder and just kind of wrap it all around, maybe a little bit of shellac in the rack to just fill up all the little pores. Reason being, if you do your ground and your main stains with the without sealing the pores, it will soak all of the dyes and all that right deep into the wood itself, especially in the top. I don't think the back doesn't have that much issue, but when it's cut into a shape, you expose called medullary rays, I believe. So you get the sort of, might be medullary rays, yeah, the caterpillar effect of the dyes and stains. And also when you brush your first coats, it won't soak right into the plate and make it heavier. Because more you add this soft rubbery compound, it dampens the sound, so it just makes it vibrate more freely and gives you a little bit lighter sound. Hopefully this one sparked interest of young makers and people who want to learn making. That's my take on this. Is